cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome to our spoiler reaction review of Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yes.
That we just got done watching.
Yes.
Several things of points of interest before we get going. I said we're going to talk about spoilers. The reason I say we're going to talk about spoilers is because this is a completely different movie than the first one.
Yeah.
Completely different movie than the first one.
Yes.
Second, this is an adult show talking about comic books. I'm going to swear a lot.
Okay.
Probably directly at Warner Brothers. So that you've been warned, if you have sensitive ears or somebody in the room with sensitive ears, put your headphones on. But you've been warned on both points. So spoilers, and we're going to curse. That's what now that we've said that.
Okay.
Overall, how do you feel about this version, this 4-hour epic?
It was 4-hour epic. I like you said, it's a completely different movie. I like it way better. All the characters had way more depth. It obviously wasn't meant to be a Disneyland amusement park version of a comic book movie.
Right.
It was actually meant to be, like you said, an epic, and more of a Christopher Nolan version of Batman.
DC is kind of that way anyways.
Yeah. DC's dark compared to Marvel.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just, it makes you...
We're not there yet. No, we're not to the cussy at Warner Brothers yet. It's coming.
Okay.
It's coming. This is amazing. It grabbed me in the first 3 minutes and held my attention for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Now, I know that this was supposed to be 2 movies.
Right.
And the buildup of the first movie was supposed to be... the finale was supposed to be the fight with Superman. And then the second movie was supposed to be essentially them fighting off the mother boxes and stopping Steppenwolf and stuff like that. So knowing that it was supposed to be 2 movies, sitting down and a 4-hour movie, and to get Zack's proper view of the world, I still was engaged the entire time.
Yeah. There was a couple of parts where I was like, yeah,
This probably would have been cut for time or whatever.
Yeah, I don't need this. Yeah, some of the Flash's kind of emotional stuff. I mean, there was just a lot of, like, I don't know if this was after the fact and Zack was just like, I'm just gonna pour all the emotion into this, but there was a lot. I wouldn't say a lot. There were several parts where I was like, you probably could have done without that. But
there is some. This was Zack's original when he went to Warner Brothers with what he had. From the stories that we've heard, at least, was he put the film together, and it was essentially this version of this 4-hour cut. And this is how all movie creators work.
Mm-hmm.
They build this giant they film extra stuff all the time, thinking that they need to have coverage or they need to have an extra emotional scene, and they do all this stuff and they put it all together, and then they sit down with the producers and the heads of the studios and whatever, and they talk about what makes the most sense to keep and sell, or keep and sell.
keep and throw away.
And then in that process, they decide, hey, we need to add a few more lines of dialogue here. We need to reshoot this scene because the lighting wasn't quite the same as it was. And that's how we get reshoots.
Right.
So understanding all of that, I never think that this was going to be one 4-hour movie in the first place. This was what he presented.
Well, but it's not, because they went back and did
some reshoots. The rumors of an $80 million to make this movie, to make the Snyder Cut, is goddamn ridiculous. That's a blatant out lie. 20, yes, not 80.
Yeah, but, well, I mean, I don't know, because the whole ending is different, and that's all CGI.
Yeah.
So that whole, well, okay, not the ending, the end
final fight
before the epilogue, which is also all mostly new.
Yeah.
There's a lot of CGI in there that
was
what
from everything that I've read and everything I've seen and everything I've heard is the only couple of things that they filmed was the Joker scene that's in the epilogue. So that whole thing was filmed.
Yeah.
But they only filmed for like a week. It wasn't like they went
Yeah,
and
but that's
filmed
not
for a month.
film. That's CGI.
Right. Well,
and then Steppenwolf, they had to completely redo him.
Right. And that was the bulk of what they spent the money on was finishing the CGI the way it needed to be finished.
Yeah.
That they didn't do in the first one.
Yeah,
because
way better. Yeah, that whole scene just wasn't even in there, which is fine. Shouldn't have been in there to begin with.
Right. I want to talk about this is how you do character development. A lot of people are going to come out and say, oh, we knew this about Arthur, and we knew this about Barry Allen, and we knew this about Cyborg and stuff like that. We know that now,
right? And not everybody knows that.
But we know all of that information, or at least more people know about all that stuff now than when this movie was supposed to come out 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And so they needed to spend some time, and I really appreciate it. They spent, or 5 years ago now, I think, they spent time dealing with Arthur, and they spent time with the emotional stuff with Barry, and not making Barry the I mean, he's still the white-eyed kid, but he's not the frantic white-eyed kid that the Whedon version is.
Yeah, he's way more.
I love this Barry.
Yeah, he's way more together. I mean, he's still got a couple of funny lines, but it's not constant. He's not like a spastic kid who,
right.
I mean, he doesn't go into the fight, and I've never been in a fight before, and all this. He goes in and he's like, I'm gonna do this. And
I'm gonna keep my going at Warner Brothers for a little bit longer. Everything that happens with Vic and Cyborg and his dad, all of that is just downright awesome.
Yeah.
Just plain and simple what Ray Fisher brought to that role.
Yeah. And now you understand why he was so pissed off.
And I'm not defending Joss Whedon at all. I'm not going to do that in this. He had a mandate from Warner Brothers to do something, and the victim of that was Ray Fisher's character of Cyborg. And there's a ton of other stuff that goes on there. We're not going to get into that here. But when you take all the character development and all the stuff out and just do the big action stuff, you have to add the Sokovian couple with the little girl with the bug spray to get any kind of emotion into it, because you cut all of this character development, all this heart behind the movie.
Yeah. And the Flash being a comedian, I guess.
He's straight comic relief and not the wide-eyed kid who Barry Allen actually is.
And I like that, Bruce Wayne isn't the bad guy. It's it's not like, he's not the bad guy in the Justice League group. He's just like, hey, we need to get together and go do this and go fight, Steppenwolf, and some of them are not really interested in joining for their own reasons, but not because he's Bruce Wayne or he's a dick or whatever. Right. And then when they all get together, once Superman comes back, it's all of them. It's not
there's not that bickering.
Yeah.
And fighting and
Bruce trying to be I'm going to go off and do it on my own, and you guys can all just go over there and do your own thing. And
there's kind of a hint at it, but not really. Like he kind of makes a comment about no matter what you see, just do your thing.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads like you could go down that path, but then they had already set it up 7 fights before.
Yeah.
That they all are all working together.
He is the odd man out, right?
Yeah.
Like, because Barry says, what do you do? And he says, I'm rich.
Yeah.
That's it. He doesn't have a superpower like
He's
everybody
the world's
else.
greatest detective, but that doesn't really help here.
Is he?
That's what they say. They say he's the world's greatest detective, but in this instance, being a detective doesn't help you with shit.
No, and he's got a lot of toys, but that doesn't necessarily, mean that. I mean, if Steppenwolf had punched him across the room like he did with everyone else, he probably would have died.
Yeah, and if you notice in that big fight, Bruce is on the tower.
Yeah, he's not in
that fight.
No,
and I appreciate that they understood that.
Yeah.
Even with Bruce's upgraded armor in that fight, he still was he's the everyman.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I actually do like Batman more than Superman is because he is me.
Yeah.
He's just a guy
with a lot of money.
Right.
And an Alfred.
And an Alfred. Let's be honest. That's his superpower, is Alfred. All the Wonder Woman stuff is still pretty close. They add some more stuff with... Sorry, we had dinner like 7 hours ago, and it's trying to come back. All the stuff with Arthur Curry it's pretty much the same. They add a little bit more of the emotional stuff. All the Superman stuff is different.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers has no freaking idea what to do with Superman, and it's goddamn ridiculous. As much as I'm not a big Superman, this is making me crazy. As much as I'm not a big Superman fan, they've done Henry Cavill dirty, and all this stuff, and this is the example of what you should do. You killed him off in BVS, which made complete sense with what they did the story there, and then. Here, he's only in half of it, and it's so well subtly done here that he's not evil. He's just defending himself when he comes back.
Yeah.
And then in the other version, they keep making comments about if he comes back, he's going to be evil.
Yeah.
And that just changes the tone when he actually comes back.
Yeah.
He's just defending himself until Lois shows up, and then he starts remembering, and then they go to, Smallville and do all that stuff and whatever. Yeah. And we get the black suit, which is what we all wanted anyways. Okay. So I really appreciate everything they've done, and now I have to talk about, the Injustice group is really cool. The epilogue with the Luther and Wade and stuff like that. The nightmare scene with the Joker, which is all the new stuff that they filmed. I really appreciate that because it adds to conversations they had earlier in the movie about Lois being important, and then going back to BVS and tying it all together and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it leaves a lot of stuff like. There was stuff that should have happened with that we're probably never going to get. But
this is very much the Star Wars version where they drop a line somewhere, and then somewhere further down in storytelling, that story they tell is based off of the line that was told. 20 years ago. Or whatever.
You don't really know what happened. They hint at what happened. Superman that the world is now destroyed or whatever. We have this kind of
Darkseid's there,
post-apocalyptic world, but obviously that was a storyline or a movie that was supposed to happen. It's not.
It's not. I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, so with everything about the movie, we really like it. We think this is the version we should have gotten in the first place. I'm cool with all that. Now we're going to curse.
Okay.
What the actual fuck was Warner Brothers thinking? You filmed this movie 3 times. And on the second time, you're like, nope, this is not the movie we wanted. This is not the director we wanted. See ya, Zack. And you bring in somebody else, and you have him hodgepodge this thing together in a completely different tone than anything else that you've done before. I understand you're trying to get to Avengers. You can't get to Avengers in 2 fucking movies.
Yeah.
You just can't. It took them 5 to get to the first Avengers movie, and that was a miracle when that happened.
Right. Well, and Marvel had a plan early on. Like, by the time they got to Avengers, they're like, okay,
we know
we
what we're
can
doing,
go
yeah.
here, we can go here, we can go here, and then come back, and then go here and here. I mean, they didn't totally know. Like,
and the first ones, the
first Avengers, they didn't know they were gonna get to Endgame, but they were working on it.
Yeah.
And then DC or Warner Brothers comes in and says, "Oh fuck, we need to try to keep up," and like you said, try to do it in 2 movies, and all they did was produced a bunch of crap.
Right.
Over and over and over again.
Right. Man of Steel is good. It's one of those movies I really like. I really like
But
it.
that was almost like the original Incredible Hulk, right? It was way over here.
Right.
And then they didn't really come back to it for a while. And then when they did, they tried to rush it all. To get up with.
Yeah. Man of Steel was one of those, like, you introduce Henry Cavill in that movie. And you give him the, Smallville version.
Right.
And that makes sense. And Zack Snyder had a plan from starting from there and working their way forward.
Right.
And then they instead of doing this Man of Steel 2, they did BVS.
Yeah.
Okay. The Ultimate Edition is actually good. It actually makes a lot more sense. Don't come at me about Martha. It makes him freaking human. So just shut up. It's why Bruce doesn't kill him is because he says he's got a mother. He's not a freaking alien. Done with that argument. And then they push this through. Okay, they have a plan. They have a plan for at least this 3-movie or what was going to be a 4-movie arc. That made sense. And Warner Brothers is like, no, nobody's going to sit down with the 2.5-hour, 3-hour movie. And it's way too dark. We can't sell toys here. So you need to leave. Oh, your daughter died. Oh, I think you should not come back. Are you? And we're going to bring somebody else in who did the first Avengers, and he made $1 billion. And we know because he's Joss Whedon that he's going to make us $1 billion. Here, Joss, here's $50 million to make a amalgamation of the 3 different versions of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, it has to be under 2 hours.
Yep. And it needs to be, what, PG-13?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming that it was because there really wasn't anything in it. I mean, this had swearing
and some blood and stuff like that.
Probably, there was a little blood on the camera and stuff. So I would assume this was probably going to be would be an R-rated version. Yeah.
It makes me ballistically pissed off that the people who were running Warner Brothers at the time, now it's a whole new group, and they've taken a pause and they have allowed Zack to come back and do all of this, do this, and give us the movie that we all wanted and thought we were going to see, and that they're moving forward with the universe and doing the kind of the Elseworlds with the Joker and the Batman and Wonder Woman and all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate what they're trying to do now, but the people who were there before who set this all up can die in a fucking grease fire. It makes me so mad when creators are allowed to create, and then people with a voice should have a voice. People with the money should have a voice. But they shouldn't come in and utterly destroy a person's work.
Yeah.
For no other reason other than you want to sell fucking toys.
Yeah.
I am a super obnoxious Star Wars fan. I buy all the toys. But the story always comes first within Star Wars.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't even know if it's a toy thing anymore because there's way too many adults out there buying, as I'm looking around a room full of pops and
toys.
And toys, yes, that my husband has bought. I don't even know if that's it anymore. There was at least one individual, and it might have been 2. I'm trying to remember the whole timeline of when that came out and when that went from the one guy that was running the studio to the other guy that was running the studio.
Yeah.
But neither of them were creative. They were like...
And they brought a creative in who couldn't run the company.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, you've either... I'm a business guy, I know nothing about the creative stuff, or... and I just shred the movies, or I bring a creative guy in who can't run the company because he's not a business... Like, how is this a business model?
Right.
How do you... A bunch of other movie studios have been able to do this.
The people like Bob Iger and Kevin Feige and Quentin Tarantino, they're once in a blue moon talent. They can create and also run the business part of it.
Well, I wouldn't say Bob Iger's creative.
Well,
Bob Iger surrounds himself.
That's his talent.
That's the sign of a good leader, a good leader. Is you don't need to be smart. You need to surround yourself with smart people.
Right.
You don't need to be creative. You need to surround yourself with creative people and then shut the fuck up and let them do it.
Right. And Kathleen Kennedy is that way. Even Kevin Feige, who just runs the creative part of Marvel, is also a producer on all this stuff. So he understands the business part, but he brings all these creative people in and says, here, go.
Yeah. I
will help you with your process.
Look at The Mandalorian with all the different directors.
And that was Kathleen Kennedy. And it just makes me so angry. I love this version. I am more pissed off at Warner Brothers than I am loving the movie right now.
Well, I mean, maybe if others... it just came out today, so I know I saw a couple other reviews, but maybe as I'm sure Wind will get back to them as to people's reactions, and maybe somebody somewhere will take that to heart.
Is widely received. Well, that's a sentence. This movie has been received. It's a positive sign for me that there's opportunity for Warner Brothers to, I won't say correct their course, but at least learn from this. They learned from Wonder Woman, and it wasn't as good as everybody hoped it was going to be.
Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah, I appreciate the movie. There's a whole other story about what Wonder Woman 84 and when it came out and why it came out and everything like this, all that stuff, but it looks like Warner Brothers may have an actual idea what they want to do going forward. This, I think, is another example of them understanding, like, we made a mistake here. We're going to try to fix it, give everybody the chance to see what they want to see, and then go forward from here.
Do you think if the pandemic hadn't happened, this would have happened?
I'm not going to say no. What I am going to say is if HBO Max didn't happen...
Yeah, but...
this wouldn't have happened.
A year ago, I mean, how would they have released this in the movie theater? They would have had to...
They wouldn't have.
Right.
It would have gone to, like, Netflix or Amazon.
But it wouldn't have. Like, now it's a thing. Like, nobody can go to the movie theater, so we're going to release... not everything, but a lot of stuff on streaming services instead of ever releasing it in the movie theater.
Yes.
And so it's forcing studios to look differently at stuff that they may have had in the can, or they were getting ready to release like last summer. Are we going to release it on streaming service, or are we going to keep holding on to it until we can get back in the movie theater? So I'm just wondering if they ever would have even...
Because of the pandemic, I think it...
Because how do you get people to sit down and watch a movie for 4 hours when there's a world going on outside of your house?
Right. I think
now we're kind of a captive audience. 4 hours, sure.
If this was actually, if the pandemic wasn't happening and we got HBO Max and we got this, we were gonna get this, the 6-part or 7-part version, I think actually would have happened. We would have gotten it over 7 weeks and kind of thing. I really feel like that may have been the thing that happened. But with the pandemic, I mean, most everybody's trapped at home unless you live in Florida or Texas, and so, or you live in Australia where they figured this fuck out.
Actually,
but the idea that having this 4-hour version, one 4-hour version, I only think works because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Now, do I think Warner Brothers would have actually done Zack Snyder's Justice League if they didn't have HBO Max? There's no chance in hell.
Yeah.
They needed content.
At the beginning of the pandemic, they were like, people were still going, we want the Snyder Cut. And Warner Brothers was like...
Right.
And then all of a sudden, like end of last summer, they were like, hey, we might have a...
So I heard a story. Actually, I heard it from Zach, and I cannot remember his wife's name, who's a producer on all of his movies and stuff like that. And they were at home, and the head of Warner Brothers Distribution, I think it was, called them and said, so we're having a thought. Do you think you could finish Justice League, and what would it cost? And they were like,
how do you even ask him that? You have treated him so badly.
Because the people who treated him so badly aren't there anymore. They've been fucking ousted 866 ways to Tuesday.
Yeah.
I hope they're living in freaking Siberia with Hopper. But the phone call was well received from Zack and his wife.
Yeah.
And in that discussion, if I remember the story correctly, they asked, where is this going to go? And they said, we want to put it on HBO Max.
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest catalyst was HBO Max. I think that's the biggest catalyst. Now, the logistics of a 1 4-hour sitting or, separate episodes or all of that stuff is more about the pandemic stuff than it is the actual getting it made. But the actual HBO Max, knowing that the streaming wars are going in full force now, when you had Disney Plus come out and killing it right out of the box with what they had, and knowing what they had coming down the line, and HBO Max was, I won't say behind, but they were later to the game.
Well, and there was HBO and HBO Now, and then they were coming out with HBO Max and Go, and everybody's like, I'm so confused. Why do I need to pay more for HBO Max when I already have this? And so they had to kind of go, we have additional content that you wouldn't have
all
gotten.
this stuff, like the Game of Thrones, now that it's not announced, there's three shows in development outside of the one that they're currently filming. So they're definitely throwing a lot of money and stuff at this at HBO Max, which is why we got this.
Right.
And I know a ton of people who wanted to see this who didn't have HBO Max, who are doing the 7-day subscription thing or whatever to watch this. And then they're going to find that HBO Max is actually worth having.
Yeah. We watched the crap out of it.
Ours are Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO Max, and Discovery.
Discovery Plus, yeah.
Like we don't like Hulu and Paramount and all that stuff. We have it, but it doesn't really think. So we have now talked about streaming wars. We've talked about how Warner Brothers are a bunch of fuckers. But back to the movie. I greatly appreciate this. I will probably like to watch it again.
Yeah, maybe on a Sunday or a Saturday or something
like that.
We rushed to get done with our workout, our afternoon routine, and get food so that we could sit down and watch it because it's long.
It's long, and it's one of those things too that, like, there's people that we follow who stayed up till midnight to start watching this, and stayed up till 4 and do their reviews.
We had
and
jobs.
Stuff. and as excited as I am to see this, I can wait.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like I needed to stay up. Like I didn't feel like I was gonna get spoiled with anything. Is what I'm trying to say.
Well, yeah, and then it was a completely different movie.
Yeah.
Which I was not expecting it to be. I was expecting. We actually, when it first started, I said we should have watched the original. Maybe we should watch it again so that we can see where the differences are.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, it's completely obvious.
Yeah.
It's not the same movie.
For me, it feels like maybe 40% of the original movie is in this movie.
Yeah. Maybe even less.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much stories different, and there's so much extra stuff, and it's just.
And just a little FYI, I think with all the 3 versions that they filmed, the 2 Zack Snyder versions, the Joss Whedon version, and then the actual version that they came out, I think they spent like $400 million.
I was going to say 300. Yeah, I know it was a lot. Yeah. It was ridiculous.
Like they refilmed this movie like 3 times, and it's Warner Brothers. What the fuck were you doing? Like that's all I have to ask. Like until somebody does the documentary and we get the full story about what was going on at the head of Warner Brothers, we're never going to know the full story.
Yeah.
And so...
I wonder if they'll do that.
I will watch the shit out of it. It will not be 4 hours though. So that is our review, reaction, and telling Warner Brothers to fuck off of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Let us know what you thought. I said about 12 minutes. We're at 30. And we even talk about the CGI, how good the CGI was.
Oh, the CGI was
how much better Steppenwolf was.
Yes.
We didn't talk about
the added bad guy.
the
William Dafoe's hair was way better.
William Dafoe's hair is pretty awesome
than that orange
whatever thing
slicked back thing that was going on.
It was pretty bitchin'. Batman. I'm still okay with Batman using guns. They're alien bugs. It's a thing. We'll talk about it later. So let us know what you thought of Zack Snyder's Justice League in the comments down below and our reaction to it. Please be nice. That is a requirement around here. Don't come after me about Martha. Martha, I will die on that hill 7 ways to Tuesday. It's a great fucking scene. So let us know what you thought in the comments down below. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and follow us on all the social media stuff. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Links are in the description down below. And now I get to go edit, go to bed. Yay. And until next time, cult members, I'm Batman.